Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you, Ed, for being here with us. I know you arrived very late last night, so we really appreciate you being here.
It's my pleasure.
Well, for whoever doesn't know, Edmund is one of the co-founder of Kosmos Productions. He's also the president of Tichira Formula E, the team, and also the managing director of Sika Worldwide. Quite some titles over there.
There's a lot of titles. Thanks.
So we are here to talk about the new format of the Davis Cup. The tournament will be changing not this year, the following year. So the vote went down last summer, last August, and you are the company behind this new format. Why did you decide to pursue this change, this project? What was the ultimate goal that you were pursuing?
Sure. First off, good morning, everybody. Thanks very much for attending this seminar. This is the first time that I've actually talking about the Davis Cup 2.0, so to speak. Obviously, as you know, we were able to get a positive vote last August, and since then we've been going. So this idea stemmed close to 2 years ago. Obviously, I think everybody's familiar with Gerard Piqué, the player for FC Barcelona. He and I started talking one day about tennis, and at the same time we were looking at doing a World Cup format for the WTA. He was looking at do something with the World Cup format with ATP, and we both loved Davis Cup growing up. I think that as a tennis competition, the Davis Cup is incredible. The passion, the enthusiasm from the crowds is unmatched. And so we were talking about, how we love Davis Cup, but we also knew that Davis Cup was somewhat suffering. Sponsorship was at an all-time low. Media rights was difficult to achieve, and I think just that there was a stagnation in terms of fan support. So, we came up with this World Cup idea, which isn't very new, to be honest with you. I think, in the past, many people have talked about changing the Davis Cup into a bit of a World Cup format, and so. The last 2 years has basically been working with the ITF, with the International Tennis Federations, working with the federations to lobby them, basically to make this change. Because obviously, tennis is very structured, very conservative, and for us to promote this new idea took took a long time to convince the federations. So. Earlier in February, the executive committee actually confirmed to move forward on their side. And from then until the vote in August, we basically looked at working with all the federations to introduce them, what their requirements would be, to show them exactly what this new format would give them in terms of financial resources and what our objectives were.
What was the biggest challenge when you were trying to convince them that this was the right format? Like with all this negotiation went down, what was the biggest challenge you were confronting?
I think the main challenge is just that Davis Cup has been around for over 100 years. It started in 1900, and I think that tennis is very, very conservative. I think that if you look at tennis as a sport, there has been very, very few change instituted. Even last year, there was a vote at the IEGM where they wanted to move from 5 sets to 3 sets, which was turned down. So that is a symptom of the conservatism of tennis and the many member federations. So what we did was basically we lobbied them. So for a good 6 months, we literally went to Africa, we went to North America, we went to South America, we went to all parts of Asia and sat down with every single member federations to introduce to them the reasons why we're trying to change Davis Cup. I'm a big fan of Davis Cup, like I mentioned. If it didn't need change, I don't think we would change it. But I think that when you look at all the things that were affecting Davis Cup, I think that this is the right route to take. And, the most difficult thing was just to convince the federations, to convince the stakeholders that, come on board with us and support this new endeavor.
So for those who don't know already, can you explain a little bit, a resume of how will this new Davis Cup be?
Sure. I think everybody understands the Davis Cup was home and away format, played 4 times throughout the year. What we're proposing right now is that it's played 1 time at the end of the year. It's a season finale where the top 18 teams in the world will be competing against each other. The structure is quite different. So instead of 5 sets now, we're going to move to 3 sets. We will have the 4 teams that played the semifinals from the year previous. We'll have 12 teams that will qualify in February, and then we'll have 2 wild cards, so a total of 18 teams. But this has been a big change because now it is a World Cup format where the top 18 teams will be competing against each other.
So you also introduced the 2 wildcards. Why did you decide to do that?
The wild cards is obviously going to be a difficult process, so it will be a decision that we will make with the ITF in terms of the country has to fulfill certain requirements for it to become a wild card. It has to be a top 50 team. It has to be ranked in the top 50. It has to have a player in the top 10 and a number of other accolades where it would need to fulfill before it could become a wild card. But I think that any wild card decision will have some type of immediate response, I'm sure.
Yeah. And also you're keeping some traits, from the previous format because it's not totally different. You are keeping the home and away games in the qualifying round in February.
That's right. I mean, again, when we spoke to the federations, they did indicate that the home and away was quite important to certain countries. So instead of abolishing the complete home and away, all the zonal groups under the world group will still have home and away. And then the qualification for the world group will take place in February, and that will be home and away as well.
So we are talking one big event, 1 week, 1 location, 18 teams. How you say, it's kind of like the World Cup format. Were you inspired by it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my wife watches football once every 4 years because she watches the World Cup, and beyond that, she doesn't watch it all. So I think that what we want to do is something quite similar, that this transcends tennis, this transcends sports. We want people to follow tennis, follow their countries because it's a different format. You don't have to be a tennis fan to understand the passion for cheering your country. You don't have to be a sports fan to follow tennis. So we're trying to introduce this new concept to as many people as possible, tennis fans, non-tennis fans, sports fans, non-sports fans, that, this is a big enough event. I was just in Singapore last weekend for Formula One, and, they did the same, they do something quite similar where there's a lot of concerts, there's conferences, there's so many things going outside of just the sportive event, and I think that this is what we're trying to create. You mentioned the Super Bowl format, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We want to create an event that will create significant interest from as many people as possible. Obviously, we know that tennis is a very important sport. It's a very interesting sport. And so if we're able to encapsulate all these other entertainment things around it, then we're trying to create something that hopefully will be something that people will talk about for a long time.
So you're talking about these other elements because we are talking so much more than tennis. You're talking sometimes about like a 7-day festival. What does that mean? What else will encapsulate?
Well, for sure, I think that we will definitely have concerts. We're looking at having a sports conference. We're looking at having a lot of events, different things that surround tennis. I think that people want to see more and more things around their choice of sports. So we're trying to give them entertainment value as well, things outside of tennis. But obviously, tennis will propel things. But certainly, we want to make sure that we have all these things surrounding the tennis competition that people will enjoy. Because this is a World Cup format, because this is country specific, we expect that there's going to be a lot of people that will travel to the tournament, that will travel to the competition to support their national team. And this is something that we definitely want to take advantage of.
But the World Cup, it's every 4 years, right? And this is going to be every year. Do you see that change coming at some point, or not really? It's going to...
No, I mean, Davis Cup is an annual tournament, and so this will continue. We have bandied about different conversations, whether we should change it to 2 years or 4 years or whatnot, but, the ITF has indicated that Davis Cup is an annual tournament, and we'll keep it as such.
Okay, so how will fans benefit from this new format?
I think the main thing that fans will benefit first off is that they will know when the competition takes place. One of the main factors was that fans really didn't know who will be the finalists, where it will take place, what surface that will be played. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to ensure that there is enough lead-off time. Everyone knows that the competition will take place in November. Everyone will know which city of choice it will be. Everyone will know which teams will be there. And so I think for fans, they can plan accordingly. They can plan their traveling. They can plan all the commitments that they need to attend the Davis Cup. And that was one of the worrisome things about Davis Cup, is that you just didn't know who the finalists were going to be. You didn't know which home city was going to be the host for the competition. And this made it very difficult for sponsors and media rights broadcasters to plan accordingly. So with the new Davis Cup, all this has changed. Fans can prepare, media rights broadcasters can prepare, sponsors can prepare, and obviously the city host will be a big part of that as well.
And for national teams, because I know some federations, how can they also benefit from that?
The first thing is money. Obviously, we have instituted a pretty significant prize of 20 million for competition purposes, similar to one of the Grand Slams, right? So this is the first thing that will benefit, is that the players will actually have prize money for the first time when it comes to Davis Cup. We will also have...
How much will be that prize?
20 million. 20 million. So it's fairly significant. And also, we will have compensation that will be given to the federations to support the federations. The ITF and the member nations, their main goal is to popularize tennis. And so the more funds that they have at their disposal will enable them to do more and more and more within their localities. So we think that one of these things that will definitely help the federations is that they'll have a lot more funding.
But there have been many opinions about this change. So many people felt like, okay, a change is needed, but I don't know if this is the right one. Some voices were raising their concerns against this new format that is shorter games, but more games. At the same time, all more focused on only 1 week. What would you say to them? What would you say to those players who were raising their concerns about maybe this is not the right thing to do right now?
Well, I think the first thing that I really like is just the passion from everybody. Either they were for us or they were against us. And I think that speaks volumes in terms of how important Davis Cup is. I think that what we're asking for is patience, obviously. We know that it's a significant change to the current situation regarding Davis Cup. And to be fair, and to be honest, I'm a traditionalist as well. I'm as conservative as they come. But the truth is that Davis Cup needed an overhaul. It needed to be changed because things weren't working in its favor. The top players weren't playing. Sponsorship was at an all-time low. It was very, very difficult to understand and follow Davis Cup. So I think with this new idea, I think that if people give it a chance, obviously our first edition will be next year, so it's very, very quick. But I think that if some of our distractors give it a chance, I think that they'll understand why we did what we did. But I think it's been really, really positive. It's been, the tennis community has been very, very supportive. And even last month during the AGM, we really had no idea which direction the vote would take. We were quite optimistic that we would get the votes in our favor. But again, tennis is very, very conservative, very, very traditionalist. And so for the federations to vote in our favor spoke volumes in the sense that they understood that a change was needed. And I think that if they understood a change was needed, hopefully I think that everybody can support us as we create this new type of competition style.
You mentioned that it's probably going to take time. Obviously, it's a big change, and it's our 100-year tournament. If maybe in 3, 5, 10 years, I don't know, give it a time, you see that this is not the right direction, maybe you will be capable to maybe transform this new format. You will be able to say, okay, maybe we should do this?
Well, I think our gut instinct is that it'll be very successful. I think that we've talked to a lot of the stakeholders, we've talked to all the media rights, we've talked to the sponsors, and they're highly supportive of this new opportunity. So we're really confident that this will make a big splash in the world of tennis. We're trying to create a tennis finale, so to speak, right? So it's the last competition of the season. We want to make sure that it's one of the biggest tennis competitions in the world. And we're going to do everything that we can in our power, along with the ITF, to make sure that it's a success.
And you have also talked about the broadcasters. From an entertainment point of view, how is this format better than the previous one?
Well, I think for the media rights holder, they're able to plan accordingly. Because it's a 1-week format, they're able to understand when the matches will take place, which countries will play against who. They're able to sell the media rights to countries around the world. So I think that, number one, it allows people from around the world to watch Davis Cup because they know, the schedule moving forward. So again, it's just giving assurances as to the timing, the scheduling, all that kind of stuff that wasn't pertaining to the current Davis Cup. So I think that when we put in all these things together, it makes sense from the broadcaster side of view.
Davis Cup, you mentioned it's a tournament with over 100 years. Did you take this into account when you were preparing for the new one? Was it maybe overwhelming to think we are changing something that it has been around for so long?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as I mentioned initially, I'm a big fan of Davis Cup. I remember watching. I was born in Canada, so I was supportive of the Canadian team, and the Canadian team was ranked, I think, very, very low, and we always had a chance when we played against some top teams. And I think that's because that the players are buoyed by the fan support, and when that happens, they can play out of their skin. And so sometimes you were watching a 200 ranked player playing his utmost to try and beat a top 10 player, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. But I think that's what Davis Cup is all about. There's a lot of upsets. It's about how players can control their emotions. It's about how players can control the pressure. It's very, very different. I think that everybody here has played tennis before. I mean, there's a lot when you have so much stress on you, when you're serving for the win or whatnot. There's a lot of stressors involved. So, I think that pertaining to your question, yeah, absolutely. We looked at the history of Davis Cup, and we're not trying to change Davis Cup in terms of the brand. The name will continue to be the brand, and the competition will continue to be federation versus federation. But I think that the competition structure had to be changed.
I don't know if anyone has any question. Maybe now will be a good time to. There is someone up there with a question? Yeah, over there, I think. And over there, we have another one. Thanks.
Buenos días. España ha solicitado organizar las dos próximas finales de la Davis Cup. ¿Qué posibilidades tiene?
He's asking Spain has requested to organize the next two finals for the Davis Cup. What are the chances? What are the possibilities for Spain to do this?
For the host city?
Yeah.
I can tell you that the host city will be in Europe in 2019 and 2020. And we will be making a significant announcement in terms of the host city in the next week or so.
Ha dicho que seguro que las próximas dos finales en 2019 y 2020 serán en Europa y que en las próximas semanas anunciarán cuál será esa localización.
One of the things that we elected to do for the first two Davis Cups was that we did want to stay in Europe. Obviously, Davis Cup is synonymous with a lot of European countries love Davis Cup. So rather than go to Asia or go to North America, we elected to stay in Europe. So it will stay in Europe for the first 2 years.
Que seguro eligieron quedarse en Europa porque hay mucho más fans que en Asia o en África y por eso decidieron seguro los próximos 2 años será en Europa.
Hello. Hi, Edmund. Thank you very much for being here. Congrats on this new project.
Thank you.
You've talked about the benefits for both the federations and the fans, but what are the benefits for example, a big player like Nadal, Federer, or someone that doesn't need those 20 million? That I know, I mean, maybe they don't need it, but they will welcome it. But what are the benefits they have, in terms of sports and different from the money? Thank you.
I think that's a great question. I think that obviously it comes down to the player themselves choosing whether or not they want to participate in any type of tennis competition. I think that what we're hoping for is that we're going to create a tournament or a competition that everybody wants to be a part of. We want to create a competition that people are very, very comfortable and enthusiastic of playing. I think that if you looked at the past few years, the top players haven't played Davis Cup, and obviously that is a trend that we want to change. So besides the prize money, we want to make sure that they're highly supportive of other federations because this is a federation competition. And certainly we think that moving forward, this is the best case for players to be involved. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, obviously, it's our mandate to bring the top players to Davis Cup. I think that's the one thing that we need for sure.
Creo que teníamos otra pregunta por allí. Aquí hay otra.
Hi, Edmund. Can you explain a little more about the format of the final? It's 18 teams. It's a round-robin format. Thank you.
Sure. So basically, the 18 teams come from 12 qualifiers the 12 qualifiers will take place in February. And so the 12 winning teams from the qualification at the World Group will move to the Davis Cup finals. Beyond that, we have the 4 semifinalists from the previous year as well. So they're automatically received buys going to the Davis Cup as well. Pardon me? Correct. So the 4 semifinals from this year would automatically go into the finals for next year. And then there's a qualification in February for the 12 finalists. So that makes 16 teams. And then we'll have the 2 wildcard entries as well. Yeah, so there will be 6 groups, 18 teams. It'll be round robin. So the winning team from each group will move to the semifinals, and then the top 2 teams from all the groups will move into the semifinals. So then you'll have 8 teams. So 16 will go to 8, obviously. But yeah, there will be 6 groups. They'll play in a round robin. We're only going to have 2 singles and 1 doubles, which will be played during one day competition. So instead of the 5 ties, it'll only go into 3 ties. And instead of 5 sets, it will go into 3 sets. So it's much quicker. We think it's more beneficial for the players. It's better for their bodies rather than playing 5 sets. So it'll move quite quickly.
Thank you.
Of course.
Who is this next one? Over there.
曲总你好，首先欢迎来到马德里。
Thank you. 我的中文不好啊。
Okay. So, do you think in the new format of the new Davis Cup, China can get more possibility to play in Davis Cup rather than the old before?
I hope so. I mean, obviously, we like to see countries continue to develop. Obviously, I think with the extra funding that we're giving to certain countries, that they'll obviously be able to benefit greatly. China has a lot of young, entertaining, young prospects coming up, like Wu Bing, who's coming up really, really nicely. So yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, China can enter into the world stage sooner than later. But I mean, that speaks volumes about all the other teams as well. I mean, it'd be great to see, African teams one day and more South American teams and Asian teams competing in the Davis Cup to make it more international.
And China is a huge market, but right now in China, the popularity of the Davis Cup is not so high. So will you do something to develop the Chinese market, or do you have some specific strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. Next week, actually, we're going to have a press conference in Shanghai to announce Davis Cup. Gerard Piqué will be in town. I think that what we want to do is not obviously China is a very, very big market, and we'll spend some time there. I'm obviously reside there as well right now, but I think it's the same for all the other countries as well. I mean, we really want to make a concentration on making sure that we are open to working with different federations all around the world. That whatever we can do to introduce Davis Cup to them, we will do so. It's going to take some time to introduce a new format to everybody. And like I said, we only got the vote a month ago, so it is going to take some time for us to make sure that everybody understands the new competition structure. But there are going to be a lot of significant announcements in the next few weeks here, where we're going to be a little bit more transparent, a little bit more open in terms of where the host city, competition format, teams involved, and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully over time, people will understand Davis Cup, and the information will be enough for everybody.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Hi, Edmund. I would like to know if the 20 million is for the champion or for all the federations.
It's for all the federations that are playing in the competition. So obviously, similar to a Grand Slam, the placing that you have will designate a certain prize money for that. So the finals will get a certain amount, the semifinals will get a certain amount, et cetera, et cetera. So that money is geared for all the competitors.
Mm-hmm. And the champions, how much?
They'll get the most.
Thank you.
They'll get the most.
Marc Benchen from Palco 23. Which is the role of digital platforms in your project and to create content between February and November to create something for the fans between dates?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, obviously, between February and November, the finals, I mean, it's up to us to really promote the competition as much as possible. We're trying to, we have different strategies in place where we're able to do so. Obviously, we're working with all the different federations as well. One of the unique things about this is because it is the ITF and all the federations that we're able to get their support. But we will, do what is necessary to make sure that everybody is aware of the new format and the teams that are involved. We'll spend enough to make sure that that everybody's aware of the proceedings.
I think we have time for one more question. No? One more? Anyone else? No? I don't see any hand. No. Well, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here with us, Ed.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you very much, everybody.